Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 393 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our third book is out. It's called From Letters to Leaders, Leveraging Your Fraternity or Sorority Experience to Land Your Dream Job. So go and pick up that book on Amazon today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, I was born in Manhattan, New York City, and I love meeting fellow New Yorkers. And we have a fascinating guest that fits that description with us today. Elizabeth Pizzarello was born a sighted child in the Bronx, New York. Her unexpected journey started 2 weeks before her college graduation when doctors told her that she was to be blind by the age of 40. It actually happened earlier. Elizabeth was blind by 38. Elizabeth wants to share with our audience that even throughout one's academic journey, dreams can be altered by unexpected circumstances. And sometimes bad things happen to good people. When doctors told her that she was losing her vision and would go blind, it obviously rocked her world. The good news is that the talents and the skills that one acquires can be used to overcome all kinds of obstacles. They're never lost. So you can change the outcome of your story. You just have to learn how to pivot. So let's talk more about that. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm so excited to have a chance to talk to you.
Yes, of course, of course. It's just an honor to have you on the show. You were born a normal sighted child in the Bronx, New York. So what was it like for you growing up in the city?
Well, I have to give you a qualifier. My parents decided that they were going to move to the New Jersey, the Garden State. So we left New York City like a couple weeks before I went to kindergarten. So I don't have a lot of memory of the city.
Yeah, I understand that completely. My parents did the same thing. I was born in Manhattan, and by the time I was probably 4, we moved to the suburbs. We moved to Rockland County, about 30 minutes north of New York City. So yeah, I mean, I guess, growing up in the city maybe wasn't exactly what they had expected for their children. I guess they wanted some grass and other things.
And our cousins considered us the country cousins because we lived in New Jersey, the Garden State. But we were in suburbia. They had plants and everything in upstate New York.
Right.
So they thought that we were the country kids and we didn't even know how to plant a tomato.
That's great. That's a funny story. Now, you decided on Cedar Crest College in Pennsylvania for your undergraduate experience. What made you choose Cedar Crest and then move to Pennsylvania?
I decided on Cedar Crest because in the day I was looking for a well-rounded education. And in the day, Cedar Crest really emphasized leadership in women and developing those skills. So I felt like for me positioning in the job world during those days, because I was still protesting for the ERA. Oh. And so Cedar Crest then trained us for the opportunities that we had to fight to get as women.
Got it. Okay. And then just weeks before graduating from Cedar Crest, you were then diagnosed with what's called retinitis pigmentosa. What is that? And what was your reaction when you got that diagnosis?
Retinitis pigmentosa is a rare genetic eye disease. I didn't even know I had it until 2 weeks before I was graduating and I was going blind with it. I will say when they told me that day, and I'm getting ready, as students, you're all amped up to go to graduation, to the whole 9 yards. And all of a sudden he's saying, no go. All I could think of was that all my education, all my class time, all my degrees were going to be for nothing. Because who the heck was going to hire a blind scientist? Who was going to hire a blind accountant? The answer was nobody. And this all occurred before the ABA. because the American Disabilities Act did not come into existence until the 1990s. So you could not even confess you were going blind. That was very taboo. So that's where I came from in the day.
Got it. Okay. And then after 10 years of living blind, now we fast forward to 2012, and now you're the beneficiary of this newly developed lens implant procedure, and you had miraculous results with it. So the surgery took you from a state of complete blindness to now you have limited use of one eye. So what was your reaction when you regained your sight after 10 years?
I have to say the first thing I thought was I was so grateful. I could not believe that something so unimaginable happened to me. I got a second bite at that apple, being able to see again. And I want to tell you something, appreciation was blowing out of my brain. But the other side of it was the amazement, because that was for the first time I could see color. I could see definition. It was like an explosion. It was so wondrous. I will say that to you. But when I woke up the next day and realized how much things had changed, it was 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself the modern Rip Van Winkle, because when I lost my vision, the man from AOL was running across the screen for dial-up internet.
Right.
I come back with vision. You guys have this thing called smartphone with these little weird figurines on it. And the other problem is with the surgery, no doctors anticipated that there was going to be like a big gap. They thought that you could just pick up from where you left off. But the problem was technology was so far ahead. Whoa, I couldn't even figure out how to use a smart soda machine. I can tell you a very funny story. I just got my vision back, went into a coffee shop, did not have my red and white cane. So I walked in there, I had a little bit of vision, checking out. I said, where do I get coffee? She goes, over there. I said, what is that? She goes, oh, that's the touch machine. I go, what do you do? And she goes, young girl says you touch it. I said, I don't know how to do that. So she comes over and she shows me. And I said, where do you get the cream? And she goes, right there, it's the same touch screen. Sorry, I said, I don't know where that is. So finally I go to checkout. And I get my credit card out and I hand her. She goes, oh no, you have to stick it in the machine. I said, I don't know how to do that. And she said to me, I have to tell you something, lady. It's almost, you're acting like you've never ever seen these things before. And I said, can I tell you something funny? I never have. What do you think of that? And she said, you're so funny. Have a good day. And so what I'm saying is, when you've never seen some of these like touch screens and whatnot, you look like a real oddity.
Right.
And I felt like a real fish out of water because I knew what I wanted. I could see what I wanted. Access not available.
Wow.
So that was a big, big awakening on the other side of it.
Yeah. And I can see how that would be really deflating for you because, here everybody else seems to be in on it, on the joke, whatever that is, right? And you have no idea what's going on. It's as if you went to bed and then woke up 10 years later, and now you got to figure out everything that you missed over that 10-year
And nobody's tolerant. There's nobody tolerant because you all have progressed. So you see this woman who doesn't even know how to press to get coffee out of a touch machine.
Yeah.
You think, hey, this is a crazy kind of person.
Right. I mean, how do you build confidence after something like that, after you have this big catastrophic loss of your life, these 10 years when you were blind? How do you build confidence after that?
I found, and I will tell any student, any person, if you get stuck trying to do something, start small. and build on that. You don't, for me, conquering the mountain was almost considered impossible. But when I could take those small steps, it encouraged me to continue and build on those. Those successes allowed me to get better confidence in my abilities to handle, you get to that point where you say, that wasn't so bad. I can maybe do I can try something else.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of did it because, in my day, there was no internet. Nobody talked about these things, and a lot of people are very reluctant to talk about them today. That's a very sensitive issue. So I just had to learn to roll with it, go with it, because, unlike anybody else, you get a bad bit of news like I did, I'm not going to tell you I was like the superstar, like, oh yeah, bring it on. I crumbled, and that's what my story is about. A lot of people think I'm the bravest fish in the tank. No, I just learned to dig down deep and find my ability to confront my challenges. Because I'll tell you, I was never going to be, as a blind person, the one that was going to ski, Mount Everest. And I was never going to be with sight, the person that was going to skydive. But I found it within me that I did have the ability to confront my issues. And you have to dig down deep. Because the world, I have to tell you, Michael, as much as you want the world to stop when these things happen, the world keeps going.
Yeah.
And you have to either step up or just stay where you are and accept that.
Yeah.
But you have to make a decision. So, if you can embrace a change, it might not be easy, but you know what? That is the only way you're going to free yourself.
Yeah.
From any of those challenges.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the misconceptions about blindness that we can clear up today? Because I'm sure there's all kinds of misconceptions. Let's just clear the table, right? What are they about being blind?
The number one misconception I always hear all the time is when people tell me, I've heard that another sense kicks in automatically when you go blind.
Right.
Well, yes and no. It will kick in when you accept the fact that your sight is not going to be your primary sense, and you're going to rely, for me, on your hearing. Now, to cross the street when you can't see cars, you have to learn to rely on your hearing.
Yeah.
If you are one of those people, and I was initially desperate, I couldn't see anything, but I was like leaning out. Oh yeah, I can see the answer. No, I had to accept that I'm using my hearing. Forget the vision. When that happens, and that's a big mental change.
Right.
When you get to that point, then your hearing is key. I relied 100%. I could cross the street in traffic because you stand there when you're blind and you learn to listen to traffic patterns. You listen to your pedestrians, and you get a sense of that so that you can cross safely.
Wow.
But you're not going to get there if you're trying to grab onto something you don't have.
Right.
You have to let it go.
Yeah. I mean, you also cook and serve meals without vision. I mean, how do you go about doing that?
What was cool, we learned in the lighthouse, somebody has manufactured these little dots, these little stick-on dots. You can stick on the dot on your stove and know where your common temperatures are. Right now, they have sensors that you can talk to, and they'll tell you what the temperature is and all that, because we have newer devices now where you don't necessarily have the knob.
Right.
So they have adjusted to that too for the blind. They showed us like measuring cups that have little bumps that you can feel inside. As far as eating, everything, including your placement of your food and your dishes, is all based on the clock. That's why you never will wipe out a table with glasses, wine glasses, if you know that your glasses are at 10 and 2. Your main meal is always at 6. Your side dishes or surrounds at the top, because to get around your plate, you have to feel. So if you have a kind of a map, you don't make a lot of easily faux pas.
Got it.
You can be comfortable doing all that. And with preparing food, what you have to be careful. If you have a gas stove, you never wear sleeves because you can catch yourself on fire.
Right.
We had an electric stove. A lot of it is based on hearing, feel, and when I was a real big advocate of slow cooking because I had a big fear of salmonella. So I knew that when you followed like your slow cooker and you put in for 4 hours, you were pretty safe on that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it was just timing and counting. That's how you manage when you're blind. Everything is about counting, and that's how you get around.
Wow, that's just amazing. Tell our audience more about your book. It's called Eclipsed. What will our listeners gain by going out and purchasing your book?
Eclipsed is pretty much a story about just a John Q. public person like me. I'm nothing special. And I had this catastrophic thing happen to me 2 weeks before graduating. And I think my story is showing that anything is possible if you have the skills, you have the talent. If you just use them differently, you can do anything. But if you box yourself into one area, nothing really great will happen. So you have to be open to pivoting. You got the skill, you got the knowledge, go for it, just use it differently. Mm. And I will share with you, I met a blind woman who summed it perfectly. She said that when we were in kindergarten, we both learned the same alphabet. She learned it in Braille, I learned it by writing, but it was the same alphabet. So that's what I'm telling anybody. You have catastrophic loss, change it, pivot to what your circumstance needs, but don't let it hold you captive. Because you can move forward, have a happy life, and reach your goals, but you have to change with your circumstance.
That's fantastic. That's a great way, I think, to punctuate this interview. A really good message for all of our listeners. Where can our listeners go in order to connect with you and then buy your book, Eclipsed?
You can find me on Amazon, Elizabeth Pizzarello, Eclipsed. You can find me on Linktree. I'm on Facebook, and all of those things are right there. Linktree, you can find all about me there.
That's fantastic. All right, so go on to Amazon. It's Elizabeth Pizzarello, Pizzarello. Go and pick up her book on Amazon today. It's called Eclipsed, and she's got some really great lifelong lessons in the book for college students. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
And thank you so much. It's been a delight to meet you, Michael. And I hope your listeners will get something out of this. And if they have any questions, please feel free to call me and, contact me. I have no problem with responding, to any request.
That sounds good. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Elizabeth, make sure you share it on social media with other college students so that way they can hear her words of wisdom and then go and pick up her book as well. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.